Imagine the vast, unforgiving Atlantic. A sturdy ship, well-maintained, sails under a clear sky. But something is profoundly wrong. There's no crew on deck, no captain at the helm, just the creak of timber and an unnerving silence. This isn't a horror movie. This is the chilling reality of the Mary Celeste. For over 150 years, 10 souls who vanished without a trace have haunted our history. Welcome to a 4-hour odyssey into the heart of the greatest maritime enigma ever known. Our story begins with a dream of prosperity. Benjamin Briggs was no amateur. He was a seasoned, respected mariner and a man of deep faith. In 1872, he became the partial owner of the Mary Celeste. This wasn't just a cargo run, it was a family affair. He brought his wife, Sarah, and their 2-year-old daughter, Sophia, along for the ride. November 1872, Pier 50 in New York City. The ship is being loaded with its primary cargo, 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol. It's a volatile, dangerous payload bound for Genoa, Italy. As the crew of 7 German and American sailors prepares for departure, the atmosphere is professional, even optimistic. No one could have predicted that this would be their final contact with civilization. While the Mary Celeste was finding its rhythm at sea, another ship, the Dei Grazia, was trailing her by about 8 days. The captains of both ships, Morehouse and Briggs, were actually friends. They had even shared a final dinner together in New York before setting sail. Little did Captain Morehouse know that the next time he saw his friend's ship, it would be a floating tomb. For 2 weeks, the voyage was routine. Sarah Briggs wrote letters home. The crew worked the lines. The final entry on the ship's log slate was dated November 25th. It placed them near the island of Santa Maria in the Azores. The entry was mundane, just weather and coordinates. Then the record stops. For 10 days, the Mary Celeste sailed herself through the wind and waves, a ghost at the mercy of the currents. December 5th, the Dei Grazia spots a speck on the horizon. First mate Oliver DeVoe notices the ship is yawing, moving unsteadily. Its sails are set on the starboard tack, yet it's heading into the wind. It's sailing like a drunkard. As they pull alongside and hail the vessel, there's no answer. Only the sound of the wind through the rigging. DeVoe and 2 crewmen row out to board her. They expect to find a crew incapacitated by illness or perhaps a crime. Instead, they find nothing. The ship is sodden with water, but perfectly seaworthy. The main pump is disassembled. The clock is upside down. The captain's bed is unmade. But most importantly, the single lifeboat is gone. Popular legend says the sailors found warm tea and half-eaten breakfasts on the table. While that makes for a great story, the reality was bleaker. The galley was a mess, pans were scattered, and the warm meal was a fabrication added by later writers like Arthur Conan Doyle. The truth was simpler. They had left in a massive hurry. Why? Why would a captain like Briggs abandon a ship that wasn't even sinking? Captain Morehouse and his diminished crew managed to sail the Mary Celeste to Gibraltar, arriving on December 13th, 8 days after the discovery. Imagine the sight. 2 ships, one bustling with crew, the other silent and haunted, docking in the bustling port. News of the ghost ship spread like wildfire. The authorities were immediately suspicious. A perfectly good ship, valuable cargo, and no crew? This reeked of something sinister. The Vice Admiralty Court in Gibraltar was immediately convened, headed by Sir Frederick Solly-Flood, the Attorney General. Solly-Flood was a man known for his dramatic flair and a pre-existing bias against American captains. He was convinced that Captain Morehouse and his crew had murdered Captain Briggs and his family, then fabricated the story of finding an abandoned ship to claim salvage. The initial inquiry was less about finding the truth and more about confirming his suspicions. Solly-Flood meticulously inspected the Mary Celeste. He found a suspicious-looking stain on a sword, which he immediately declared to be blood. Scratches on the railing, he asserted, were evidence of a struggle. He pointed to the missing log slate as proof of a cover-up. He even fixated on a deeply cut gash on the ship's bow, suggesting it was caused by a weapon, possibly an axe. used in a violent mutiny. His pronouncements, however, were often based on conjecture, not concrete evidence. Captain Morehouse and his crew vehemently denied any wrongdoing. They explained the disassembled pump, the missing lifeboat. They detailed finding 9 empty alcohol barrels, suggesting a possible reason for abandonment. But Solly-Flood dismissed their explanations, intent on proving their guilt. It took weeks of testimony, and eventually, the blood stain was identified as rust, and the axe marks as natural wear and tear. The case against the Dei Gratia crew began to unravel. Despite Solly-Flood's best efforts, there was simply no evidence to support his claims of murder and piracy. The court ultimately awarded Captain Morehouse and his crew a salvage payment. However, it was significantly reduced due to the lingering suspicions stirred up by Solly-Flood's zealous accusations. The Dei Gratia crew, though cleared, left Gibraltar with their reputations somewhat tainted, having endured public suspicion and an aggressive legal battle. With the Dei Gratia crew cleared, the public imagination ran wild. The most obvious theory was pirates. The Barbary coast was nearby, and piratical acts weren't unheard of. Perhaps the crew of the Mary Celeste was attacked, plundered, and either killed or taken captive. It's a compelling, classic maritime tale, but it runs into some serious problems when we look at the evidence. If pirates were the culprits, why was the cargo of valuable alcohol largely untouched? Why were personal effects, like Captain Briggs' sword and the crew's money, still on board? Pirates typically took anything of value. And critically, why were there no signs of a violent struggle? No bullet holes, no significant bloodstains, no widespread damage to the ship itself. The Mary Celeste was found intact, not ransacked. The piracy theory, while exciting, simply doesn't fit the facts. Another dark theory emerged: mutiny. Perhaps the crew, discontent with Captain Briggs or the conditions, rebelled. They could have killed the captain and his family, then fled in the lifeboat. It's a grim possibility, fueled by the harsh realities of life at sea in the 19th century. Mutinies were, unfortunately, a part of maritime history. But like piracy, the mutiny theory quickly hits choppy waters. Captain Briggs was well respected, and his crew, though diverse, was generally experienced and without known grievances. More importantly, there were no signs of violence or struggle. No bodies, no blood, no weapons. A mutiny leading to the abandonment of a perfectly sound ship, with no visible aftermath, seems highly improbable. The crew could have simply sailed the ship anywhere they wanted. Why abandon it adrift in the middle of the Atlantic? So, if it wasn't pirates and it wasn't a mutiny, what on earth happened to the 10 souls aboard the Mary Celeste? The official inquiry closed, but the questions remained, festering in the public consciousness. As the Mary Celeste was eventually refitted and put back into service, her reputation as a ghost ship endured. The truth seemed to elude everyone. But in the years that followed, new theories, some plausible, some fantastical, would emerge, trying to fill the terrifying void of the unknown. And that, my friends, is where we head next. The official inquiries closed, and the sensational headlines faded, but the disappearance of the Mary Celeste crew continued to gnaw at the public imagination. If it wasn't pirates or mutiny, what then? People yearned for answers, and in the absence of hard facts, the door opened for a myriad of theories, some grounded in logic, others reaching into the realms of the fantastic. This hour, we dive into the most compelling explanations, from the rational to the utterly outlandish. Let's start with one of the most widely accepted and scientifically plausible theories: the alcohol fumes. Remember the cargo, 1,701 barrels of denatured alcohol. 9 of them were found empty. Experts now understand that even empty barrels, especially if poorly sealed, could emit highly flammable vapor. A buildup of these fumes in the ship's hold, perhaps triggered by a spark or even static electricity, could have caused a violent but cold explosion. A cold explosion is key here. It would be a powerful burst of gas, enough to shake the ship, rupture barrels, and create a terrifying roar, but without necessarily igniting a fire. Imagine Captain Briggs, his wife and child on board, hearing such a blast from below deck, fearing the entire cargo would ignite, and seeing the deck sodden from seawater that might have sloshed up from the hold. His immediate, desperate decision would be to evacuate. The theory suggests they would have launched the single lifeboat, tethering it to the ship, planning to wait for the fumes to dissipate or for the worst to pass. They would have taken essential supplies and perhaps the chronometer, a vital navigation tool, which was also found to be missing. It was a rational, if ultimately fatal, decision born of panic and a captain's responsibility to protect his loved ones and crew. A sudden change in weather, a snapped rope, or an unexpected squall could have severed the tether, leaving them adrift and condemning them all. Let's consider the raw power of the ocean itself. Could a massive waterspout or a rogue wave have been responsible? A waterspout, a rotating column of air and spray, could have lifted the crew and lifeboat right off the deck, or simply smashed into the ship with such force that Briggs ordered an immediate abandonment. Similarly, a colossal rogue wave, appearing out of nowhere, could have swept the deck clean, carrying away anyone unfortunate enough to be caught in its path. While dramatic, these theories face challenges. A waterspout would likely leave visible damage to the rigging or sails, which wasn't widely reported. A rogue wave, while capable of sweeping people overboard, doesn't explain the missing lifeboat or the orderly state of the captain's cabin. It also wouldn't necessarily compel a captain to abandon a vessel that was otherwise still floating and seaworthy. These are plausible individual events, but perhaps not the complete picture. What if the answer wasn't external, but internal? Could the crew have been incapacitated by illness? One theory suggests ergot poisoning, caused by a fungus that grows on rye and other grains, known to cause hallucinations, delirium, and even gangrene. If the ship's provisions were contaminated, the entire crew could have been driven mad, leading them to abandon ship in a state of confusion or panic. This theory, while intriguing, is hard to prove. There were no reports of illness before the abandonment, and a full crew would likely not all suffer the same symptoms simultaneously without any warning. Moreover, it still doesn't explain the missing lifeboat being deliberately launched. While a shared delusion is a terrifying thought, there's no concrete evidence to suggest it aboard the Mary Celeste. And then, of course, there are the more fantastical explanations. The vastness of the ocean has always been fertile ground for legends. Could a colossal squid, a kraken, or some other unknown sea monster have attacked the Mary Celeste? Or, for those who believe in the supernatural, was the ship cursed? Was it a ghostly phenomenon, a spectral force that simply plucked the souls from the vessel, leaving it to drift as a warning? These theories, while thrilling, take us far beyond the realm of scientific inquiry. While these supernatural and monstrous theories are captivating, they offer no tangible evidence. Yet, they endure because the human mind struggles with a void. We want an answer, even if it's an unbelievable one. The alcohol fume theory, combined with a sudden storm and a snapped tether, remains the most scientifically robust explanation. But without bodies, without witnesses, the Mary Celeste will forever remain a canvas for our deepest fears and our wildest imaginations. As we sail into our final hour, we'll explore the enduring legacy of the ghost ship and how its mystery has shaped our culture. As the 19th century drew to a close, the Mary Celeste transitioned from a maritime news item to a full-blown cultural legend. It became the Mount Everest of mysteries. But much of what we think we know today actually comes from fiction. In 1884, a young, unknown doctor named Arthur Conan Doyle, yes, the creator of Sherlock Holmes, published a short story called J. Habakkuk Jeffson's Statement. He changed the ship's name to the Mary Celeste and added sensational details like warm tea on the table and a bloody struggle. The public couldn't tell the difference between fact and fiction, and the myth was born. After the inquiry, the Mary Celeste was seen as bad luck. For the next 12 years, she changed hands 17 times. Her owners suffered bankruptcies. Her captains died prematurely. Sailors whispered that she was a hoodoo ship. She was no longer just a vessel. She was a pariah of the seas. No one wanted to sail her, and no one wanted to insure her. The tragedy of 1872 had left a stain that no amount of paint could cover. The ship's life ended not with a mystery, but with a crime. In 1885, her final captain, G.C. Parker, tried to commit insurance fraud. He loaded the ship with junk, boots, and cat food, while claiming it was valuable cargo. He then deliberately ran the ship onto Rochelois Reef near Haiti, intending to sink her. But the Mary Celeste was stubborn to the end. She refused to sink, sitting high on the reef for all to see. Parker was charged with willful barratry, but the ship was a total loss. For over a century, the remains of a ship lay forgotten under the Caribbean silt. In 2001, a team led by famous novelist and underwater explorer Clive Cussler claimed to have found the wreckage. They located timber and metal fasteners that matched the ship's era and location. However, later analysis of the wood samples suggested the timber was from a later period. The Mary Celeste refused to be pinned down, even in death. Let's look at the facts one last time. We have a missing pump, a missing lifeboat, and 9 empty barrels. Modern forensics and maritime historians have synthesized these into the most likely scenario, a combination of faulty equipment and seaquake panic. The pump was likely disassembled because it was clogged by sawdust from the ship's recent refit. Without the pump, and with a few inches of water in the hold, which is normal, Briggs might have thought the ship was sinking faster than it was. Imagine the scene: a terrifying rumble from an undersea earthquake, the smell of alcohol fumes, a pump that won't work. Captain Briggs, responsible for his wife and baby, makes the safe choice. They get into the lifeboat, intending to trail behind the ship until the danger passes. But then, the wind picks up. The Mary Celeste, with its sails set, lurches forward. The tow rope snaps. 10 people watch their only hope sail away into the mist, leaving them in a tiny boat in the middle of the Atlantic. Why are we still talking about this 4 hours later? Because the Mary Celeste is a mirror. It reflects our fear of the unknown and the fragility of human life against the vastness of nature. It reminds us that even with the best equipment and the most experienced leaders, the ocean always has the final say. It is the ultimate locked room mystery, where the room is the entire Atlantic Ocean. We may never find the bones of the Briggs family, and we may never know the exact words spoken before they stepped off that deck. But the Mary Celeste lives on in every ghost story told around a campfire and every unsolved mystery that keeps us up at night. She is the queen of the ghost ships, sailing forever in the fog of our imagination. Thanks for joining me on this journey. The sea keeps her secrets well, but we will never stop looking.